I found the photo album buried under a loose floorboard in my grandmother's attic. It was wrapped in a faded red cloth, tied with a piece of black thread like someone wanted to keep it sealed. My first thought was that it must have been some old family keepsake, maybe pictures from when my dad was a kid. But when I opened it, the first thing I saw was a photo of asterisk me. At least it looked like me, same eyes, same crooked smile, but the date printed in the corner said 1974. I wasn't even born until 1996. I laughed at first, thinking it must be some weird coincidence. But the more I flipped through the pages, the less I could breathe. Every photo showed me at different ages as a teenager, a young man, even as a child sitting beside my grandmother, who looked exactly the same as she does now. Not younger, not older, exactly the same. And then at the back of the album, taped to the last page, was a note written in shaky handwriting. "You were never supposed to find this one." I brought the album downstairs to show my grandmother. She was sitting in her usual armchair, staring out the window like she always did, as if she was watching something no one else could see. "Grandma," I said, trying to sound casual, "what's this?" I held up the book. The color drained from her face instantly. She didn't even look at the photos, she just whispered, "You shouldn't have gone up there." I tried to laugh it off. "Come on, what's the big deal? It's just old pictures." Her voice rose, shaking. "No, not pictures, memories that don't belong to you." That line hit me harder than I expected. "What does that even mean?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment, eyes glistening, then said softly, "You were born twice, but you only remember once." Before I could ask another question, she stood up, took the album from my hands, and walked straight out the back door into the rain. I ran after her, but by the time I got outside, she was gone. The backyard was empty except for muddy footprints leading into the woods behind the house. She was 83. There's no way she could have walked that fast. I called her name, but the wind swallowed my voice. That night I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said, born twice. I went back to the attic, hoping to find more. Beneath the floorboard where the album had been, there was something else, a metal box, small and rusted, with my initials carved into the lid. I'd never seen it before. Inside were three things: an old Polaroid camera, a folded newspaper clipping, and a hospital bracelet with my name. The date on the bracelet was August 14, 1974. The newspaper clipping was about a fire that destroyed a hospital that same year. The headline read, "Only one child survived, identity unknown." And below it, a black and white photo of that child. It was me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of that black and white photo, the same eyes, same scar near the lip, same everything. I kept telling myself it had to be a coincidence, maybe an ancestor who looked like me. But there was one problem. My last name was printed in the caption. The next morning I tried to call Grandma. No answer. Her landline rang and rang, then cut off mid-ring, like someone had picked it up but refused to speak. I drove to her house, but it was empty, door unlocked, teacup still warm on the table. The album was gone. I searched the entire place until I found one thing left behind on her nightstand, an old tape recorder. On it a strip of yellowed masking tape read asterisk for him. When I pressed play, I heard her voice, weak and trembling. "If you're hearing this, it means I ran out of time. I couldn't hide it any longer. They'll come for you just like they came for the others. Don't trust anyone who remembers you before 1996. Then, a pause and a whisper, barely audible. "You were never my grandson." I dropped the recorder. It hit the floor and cracked, but her last words kept echoing in my head like a curse. "Never my grandson." I grabbed my phone and called my dad. I needed answers, even if it meant sounding insane. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey kiddo, what's wrong?" "Where was I born?" I asked immediately. "What hospital?" A pause. St. Mary's, why?" "Because according to a newspaper from 1974, I said, voice shaking, "I survived a hospital fire that year." Silence. Then his voice lower now. "Where did you see that?" "In Grandma's attic." A breath, then another. "Listen carefully," he said. "You need to leave that house right now. Don't touch anything else. I'll explain when I get there." But I never got the chance to hear his explanation, because as soon as I hung up, the lights flickered, and in the reflection of the attic window I saw her, my grandmother, standing behind me, and she was smiling. I turned around, heart pounding, but she wasn't there. Just the empty attic, the faint smell of dust and something else, something metallic, like dried blood. I backed toward the stairs, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Then the old Polaroid camera on the table clicked by itself. A photo slid out. My hands were trembling as I picked it up. The image developed slowly, a gray blur, then the outline of a person, then detail. It was me, standing in the exact same spot, holding the exact same photo. But behind my shoulder in the picture was Grandma, her mouth open as if she was screaming. I dropped the photo and ran out of the attic. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I froze. The front door was open and rain was pouring inside. There were muddy footprints leading in, not out. And then from upstairs her voice called softly, "Close the album, dear. You're not ready to see the rest." I wanted to believe I was hallucinating, that exhaustion and fear were twisting my mind. But the footprints were real, soaking into the old carpet, leading straight toward the living room. I followed them, flashlight shaking in my hand. They stopped at the fireplace. The bricks were cold, untouched for years. But above the mantel, where a family photo used to hang, there was a blank frame, empty glass reflecting my pale face. I lifted it down and turned it over. Taped to the back was another photograph, older and more faded than the others. It showed my grandmother, younger but unmistakably her, standing beside a hospital bed. Lying on the bed was a child, me again, with wires and bandages everywhere. Scrawled on the edge of the photo in black ink were 4 words: Cycle 7, still viable. I didn't know what that meant, but something in me did. My chest tightened like a buried memory was trying to surface. I dropped the photo and stumbled back right as the lights cut out. For a moment, the house was silent. Then a faint hum started from somewhere deep beneath the floor, mechanical and steady. It sounded like a generator waking up. I ran outside into the rain, gasping for air. The entire neighborhood was pitch black, no streetlights, no sound. Just my grandmother's old house standing there, glowing faintly from inside with a red pulse, like a heartbeat. I called my dad again, but the signal was dead. No service. I started the car, or tried to, but the engine wouldn't turn. When I looked up, there was a light flickering in the attic window. A silhouette moved past it, someone pacing slowly back and forth. Against every rational thought, I went back in. The humming was louder now, coming from under the floorboards in the living room. I pried one loose and found a metal hatch, hidden, bolted shut. My flashlight beam caught something etched into the metal, property of Project Echo, 1974. I didn't understand what I was seeing. A project, a lab. My grandmother had been a retired nurse, but this was something else. Before I could process it, I heard a soft knock behind me. I turned, and there she was again, wet, pale, and smiling. "You should have stayed gone," she whispered. I stumbled back as she stepped closer. Her eyes were wrong, too dark, too steady. "What is Project Echo?" I demanded. "What did you do to me?" She tilted her head. "You were meant to be a memory, not a man." "What the hell does that mean?" Her smile widened. "Your father tried to save you after the fire. He rebuilt what was left of your mind. But you can't keep a copy stable forever." She reached out her hand, not to hurt me, but to touch me, like she was testing something fragile. "It's happening again, isn't it?" she whispered. "You're remembering." The humming beneath the floor grew louder, shaking the whole house. From somewhere deep below, a metallic voice crackled to life through unseen speakers. "Subject Echo 7 detected. Memory breach imminent. Initiate retrieval." My grandmother looked terrified now, truly terrified. "Run," she said, "before they take you back." Then the floor split open beneath her feet, swallowing her whole. And from below came a light, cold, white, mechanical, waiting for me. I froze at the edge of the hole, the humming now so deep it felt like it was vibrating inside my skull. The light below wasn't firelight, it was sterile, fluorescent, like something you'd see in a lab or hospital. I could smell metal disinfectant, and something faintly burnt. Against every instinct, I climbed down. A narrow ladder led into a concrete corridor lined with flickering lights. The deeper I went, the clearer the sounds became, the hiss of air vents, the low mechanical beeps of machinery. It felt impossible that all this had been hidden beneath my grandmother's house. At the bottom, I found a corridor with doors labeled Echo 2 asterisk through asterisk Echo 6. Each one had a small square window fogged with condensation. I wiped the glass on the nearest door and looked inside, and what I saw nearly made me collapse. There was a bed, and on it a body. My body. Or maybe not mine, a version of me, motionless, skin pale and cracked like wax. The monitor beside it flatlined years ago. On the clipboard, decommissioned memory fragmentation unstable. That's when I realized the truth. I wasn't the first. I was number 7. I staggered backward, hand over my mouth. My heartbeat felt unnatural, too fast, like it was trying to match the hum of the machines. I ran past the other doors, afraid to look again, afraid they'd all be me. At the end of the corridor, a metal door stood half open. Inside, rows of dusty computers blinked weakly to life as I entered, as if recognizing me. On the central screen, green text flickered. Project Echo Memory Reconstruction Sequence Active Subject. Echo 7 asterisk status. Reintegration in progress warning. Cognitive loop instability detected, then a file opened automatically, a video feed. It showed a man I recognized instantly. My father. He looked younger, desperate, surrounded by scientists. "It's working," he said into the camera. The memory imprint took, but if the subject ever recalls the fire, he stopped, glancing toward someone off-screen. "The construct will collapse. Construct, not person." I backed away slowly, the air suddenly freezing cold. The words on the screen shifted again. "Hello, Echo 7. It's time to come home." The lights began to flicker violently. Sirens wailed in the distance, and somewhere behind me, one of the doors hissed open. I ran. The corridor stretched endlessly now, walls pulsing faintly like veins. The smell of ozone and burning metal filled the air. When I reached the ladder, the way back up was gone, replaced by smooth concrete. I was trapped. Then the voice came again, deeper this time, echoing from everywhere at once. "Do not resist retrieval. Memory stabilization will resume shortly." I grabbed a metal pipe and swung at the nearest console, sparks bursting out. The lights dimmed. The voice distorted, glitching. "Stabilize Phi memory reset." For a second, I heard something human asterisk in the static, my father's voice. "Run, son. You're not supposed to exist outside the system." I turned and saw another door sliding open, labeled Exit Access 1974. Beyond it was blinding white light and the faint outline of a city skyline. I ran toward it, every nerve screaming, and the moment I crossed the threshold, everything went silent. No hum, no machines, no grandmother, just a quiet suburban street at dusk, and every house on it looked exactly like hers. At first I thought I'd escaped. The air was cool, clean, too clean. The street stretched on endlessly in both directions, each identical house perfectly still, curtains drawn, driveways empty. The silence was thick enough to choke on. I started walking. No matter how far I went, the view didn't change. Same mailboxes, same flickering streetlight, same faint smell of rain. When I passed one of the houses, I caught sight of movement through a window, a figure sitting at a dining table, perfectly still. I stepped closer. It was me. He was sitting in the same chair my dad always used, staring straight ahead. Then slowly, he turned his head toward the window and smiled. It wasn't a normal smile, it was rehearsed, mechanical, the same one I'd seen in that Polaroid from the attic. I stumbled back, tripping over the curb. When I looked again, the window was empty, the house dark. But from somewhere down the street, a dozen doors opened at once, hinges creaking in eerie unison. And inside each doorway I saw another version of me standing there, waiting. I ran. I didn't even know where I was going. The street seemed endless, looping in on itself like a nightmare. Every time I turned a corner, I'd end up back in front of Grandma's house. I tried shouting, pounding on doors, but no one answered. Finally, I stopped in the middle of the road, chest heaving. That's when all the streetlights flickered on at once, harsh, white, blinding. Every version of me stepped out of their houses simultaneously, moving in perfect sync. One of them, the one closest to me, spoke. His voice was calm, almost kind. "You shouldn't fight it. The system wants equilibrium. It's what we were built for." "I'm not one of you," I said, though my voice shook. He smiled faintly. "You are exactly one of us. You're just the last one left who doesn't know it yet." Then, as if on cue, every me on the street began to hum softly, the same low vibration I'd heard beneath the floorboards. The sound grew louder, sharper, almost unbearable. The world around me started to bend, asterisk houses rippling like reflections in water. I covered my ears and screamed, and the next moment, everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying on a hospital bed, white ceiling, beeping monitor. My wrists were strapped down. For a second, I thought it had all been a nightmare. Then I turned my head and saw him sitting beside the bed, my father. He looked older, exhausted, but when he saw my eyes open, he smiled. "You're back," he said softly. "Where am I?" "Somewhere safe," he said. "We pulled you out before the collapse reached your core memory." I struggled against the restraints. "You mean that street, the other versions of me, that was real?" "It was asterisk contained asterisk," he said carefully. "A memory construct meant to house the earlier copies. When they started to degrade, we had to isolate them. You wandered back in." He leaned closer. "You were my greatest mistake, but also my only success. You survived the fire and I couldn't let you go. So I rebuilt you again and again until something finally worked. You, Echo 7, were supposed to be the end." His hand trembled as he placed it over mine. "I just never expected you to remember." I stared at him, trying to process his words. "You rebuilt me," my voice cracked. "What does that even mean? I'm not real." He shook his head slowly. "You're asterisk real enough. You think, you feel, you bleed, but your consciousness was copied from the fragments we recovered after the fire. You died that night, son. Your body didn't survive, but your memories, some of them did." My mind was spinning. Every sound in the room felt too sharp, every flicker of the fluorescent light too loud. "Then what are the others?" I asked. "The failures," he whispered. "Versions that couldn't stabilize. Each one lasted less and less time before collapsing. But you held together for almost 30 years. That's why they wanted to retrieve you, to see what made you different." I stared at the IV line in my arm, at the machine beside me pulsing softly in rhythm with my heartbeat. I wasn't sure if it was tracking me or controlling me. My father looked at me then, really looked. "You were never supposed to find the album," he said. "That was your grandmother's way of keeping you grounded. Every time you remembered too much, she'd reset the loop." I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "So what happens now?" His face tightened. "Now," he said quietly, "you decide whether you want to stay real or wake up." Before I could respond, the lights flickered again. A shrill alarm began to wail somewhere down the hall. My father stood up immediately. "No, not now," he muttered, rushing to the control panel. "They found us." "Who?" I demanded, pulling against the straps. "Who found us?" "The Institute. The original system still wants you back. Your property, Echo 7, they can't let a construct exist outside their network." The monitor beside me began to glitch, green text spilling across the screen. "Retrieval protocol initiated asterisk containment failure DETCTD." My father slammed a button, and the restraints on my wrists released. "Go," he shouted. "Run before it sinks." I stumbled off the bed, dizzy, weak, but adrenaline pushed me forward. The hallway beyond the door was filled with flashing red lights and an eerie, rising hum. As I turned a corner, I saw two figures in white suits approaching, faceless, moving in perfect synchronization. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. because when they raised their hands toward me, my vision flickered like a glitch in reality, and for a split second I saw their faces. Both of them were me. I ran blindly, doors slamming shut behind me as the sirens grew louder. Every corridor looked the same: white walls, metal floors, mirrors reflecting impossible angles. My head pounded with static. I could feel my thoughts unraveling, memories crashing over each other like waves. I saw flashes: my grandmother's face, the fire, my father dragging me through smoke. Then labs, wires, cold water, lights. Voices repeating my name until it didn't sound human anymore. When I turned a corner, I nearly collided with my father again. His face was pale, drenched in sweat. "I tried to stop them," he said, grabbing my arm. "I tried to make you real, but they've already begun the reset." "What does that mean?" I gasped. He looked past me, eyes filling with something like guilt. "It means everything you know, this conversation, this place. It's all code unraveling." The floor beneath us began to dissolve into white static. He squeezed my hand one last time and whispered, "If you want to survive, find the first memory. The one before the fire, that's where you are." Then the world blinked out, and when I opened my eyes again, I was standing in front of a burning hospital. The year asterisk 1974, asterisk glowing in red letters on a collapsing sign. And somewhere inside, I could hear a child screaming. My own voice. The air was thick with smoke and sirens. I stood outside the burning hospital, every instinct screaming at me to run, but I couldn't. My legs moved on their own, carrying me toward the entrance. The heat licked at my skin, but I didn't feel pain. Only a strange pull, like gravity itself, was dragging me forward. The sliding doors, half melted, opened with a broken hiss. Inside, the halls were chaos, flames eating through wallpaper, ceiling tiles crashing down. I turned a corner and froze. A small boy sat on the floor, clutching a stuffed bear scorched at the edges. He looked up. He had my face. "Don't come closer," he said, his voice shaking but certain. "You can't help me, you're not supposed to." I knelt, coughing from the smoke. "You're me, you're the original." He nodded once. "They made you from this, from me dying here. But you're not just a copy, you're what I wanted to be, free." The building groaned as part of the ceiling collapsed nearby. I reached for him. "Come with me, we can leave together." He shook his head slowly. "If I go, the loop never ends. You'll keep reliving this over and over. One of us has to stay." His eyes filled with tears. "So go, take my place. Be the one who makes it out this time." The world around us was collapsing, alarms blaring, flames swallowing everything. I could barely see him through the smoke, but he smiled, that same crooked grin I'd seen in every photo, every reflection, every nightmare. "I can't just leave you," I shouted. "You're not leaving me," he said softly. "You're asterisk becoming me." The floor split open and light, blinding, pure, burst through. I felt myself falling, weightless, like everything I was had been peeled away layer by layer. I heard his voice fading, whispering through the fire, "Remember who you are. Don't let them rewrite you again." Then everything went still. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in a hospital bed, but this time it was morning light streaming through the window. The machines were silent. The air smelled of disinfectant and rain. A nurse passed by and smiled. "Welcome back," she said. "You've been in a coma since the fire. It's 1974. I looked down at my hands, small, unscarred, the hands of a child. On the bedside table was a Polaroid camera, and next to it, a note in my own handwriting. "You'll remember this one day. Don't look too closely." The camera clicked. And somewhere far away, another me woke up, reaching for the same photograph.